I've been working on Hyundais for over 16 years. In that time, I've pulled apart engines with 60,000 miles that looked like they'd done 300,000, and I've serviced Elantras and Sonatas with 280,000 miles that still had clean bores and tight tolerances. The difference was never luck. It was never the trim level or the color or which dealership sold it new. It was 10 specific habits the owner either had or didn't. I'm going to give you all 10 and stay to the end, because the last one is the mistake I see destroy more Hyundai engines than any mechanical fault ever does. I want to show you something I see at least 3 times a week in my workshop. I pull the dipstick on a Hyundai that came in for something unrelated, a noise, a light, a tire, and the oil on it is dark brown, almost black, and thick enough that it clings to the stick like it doesn't want to let go. I ask the owner when they last changed it. They say 6 months ago. The service sticker in the corner of the windscreen says 7,500 miles, and the odometer says they've done 6,800 since that change. That oil isn't dirty because this owner neglected the car. It's dirty because 7,500 miles is too long. Hyundai's official interval assumes a warm engine, mild temperatures, and predominantly highway driving. Most of you aren't doing that. You're doing school runs, short commutes, stop-start traffic in a city, and maybe one longer trip on the weekend. Under those conditions, the oil degrades faster than the interval assumes, and the engine paying the price is the CVVT system. The continuously variable valve timing actuators in Hyundai's 2.0 and 2.4-liter engines are fed by oil pressure through passages about 2 millimeters wide. When degraded oil starts depositing sludge, those passages restrict. I've measured oil pressure drops of 8 to 12 pounds per square inch at idle on sludged engines. That's the difference between a tensioner that's doing its job and one that's allowing half a millimeter of chain slack to develop every 10,000 miles. A CVVT repair is $800 to $1,400 in labor alone. An extra oil change is $60. Change it at 5,000 miles. No arguments. 3 months ago, I had a 2017 Sonata come into my workshop. Owner had been changing oil every 5,000 miles without fail, exactly what I'd have told him to do. But he'd been buying whatever 5W30 was on sale at the supermarket. No API SN Plus rating, no ILSA CGF6 certification. Just generic full synthetic that looked fine on the shelf. At 94,000 miles, the Theta 2 engine started consuming oil between changes. Half a liter every 1,500 miles. By the time he came to me, the bore wash pattern on cylinders 2 and 3 told me the piston rings had been running in oil that lacked the right viscosity modifiers at cold temperatures. On a winter morning at -8 degrees Celsius, that generic synthetic was taking 40 to 60 seconds longer to reach full circulation pressure than a GF6 certified oil. That's 40 to 60 seconds of boundary lubrication on tight Theta, 2 tolerances, every cold start for 94,000 miles. Hyundai's Theta 2, New, and Gamma engines all require oil certified to API SN Plus or ILSACG F6. These aren't suggestions, they're specifications written by the engineers who designed the bore and ring clearances. The price difference between a certified and non-certified 5W30 is about $3 per liter. The cost difference between what that $3 prevents and what it allows is somewhere between nothing and a new engine. Check the bottle before you buy. Last spring, I had a 2014 Hyundai Tucson towed into my workshop at 6:30 in the morning. The driver was a nurse who'd been on a night shift and was 20 minutes from home when the belt let go on the dual carriageway. No warning, no squealing for weeks beforehand. The accessory belt on Hyundai's 2.0-liter GDI simply doesn't give you a graceful exit. It runs, and then it doesn't. When I laid the pieces out on my workbench, the belt had 101,000 miles on it. The outer surface looked reasonable, but the inside, the ribbed surface that runs on the pulleys, had stress cracking between the ribs that's only visible when you flex the belt by hand. That's the check Hyundai's inspection schedule relies on. The problem is that stress cracking on a belt under load at temperature on a cold morning behaves differently than stress cracking on a belt you're bending over a workbench. I've failed belts on the bench that had months left. I've passed belts on the bench that let go 3 weeks later. Replace it at 90,000 miles. Replace the belt tensioner and the idler pulley at the same time. They're another $45 in parts, and you're already in there with the belt off. The total job runs $110 to $160 depending on the model. The alternative, as that nurse found out, is a $340 recovery call, a $280 tow, and a missed sleep before a second shift. Belt, 90,000 miles. No exceptions. Hyundai's OAT coolant is a good product. Under ideal conditions, it maintains its inhibitor package for up to 120,000 miles. The key words are ideal conditions. In practice, coolant absorbs combustion gases, picks up dissolved aluminium from the water pump housing, and loses its pH buffering capacity from the first day it goes in. I test coolant pH on almost every service that comes through my workshop. On a Hyundai with coolant changed at 60,000 miles, I consistently see pH readings between 8.0 and 8.5, slightly alkaline, exactly where you want it to protect aluminium. On a Hyundai that's followed the 100,000-mile recommendation, I regularly see readings below 7.0, neutral to slightly acidic. That pH range is actively dissolving the aluminium oxide layer inside your water pump housing, your heater core, and your thermostat housing. I've cut open thermostat housings from 100,000-mile Sonatas and found pitting you could catch a fingernail on. A coolant flush at 60,000 miles costs around $95 to $110 at my workshop. A thermostat housing replacement on the 2.4-liter new engine is $320 in parts and labor. A cylinder head skim after a highway coolant loss is $900 to $1,400. I know which bill I'd rather write. Flush it at 60,000, flush it again at 120,000. Your cooling system will outlast the rest of the car. In 2022, a 2015 Sonata came to my workshop with a knocking noise at idle. The owner had already been to 2 other shops. First shop quoted $2,200 for a bottom-end rebuild. Second shop quoted $3,800 for a long block replacement. Before I touched a tool, I ran the VIN through NHTSA's database and through Hyundai's own service campaign portal. That car had an active Theta 2-engine warranty extension, 10 years, 100,000 miles, covering exactly the bearing knock the owner was hearing. I sent him to the dealership with the campaign number written on a piece of paper. He came back 3 weeks later in the same car with a brand new long block engine under the bonnet. Total cost to him, $0. The dealership had not called him about the campaign. He'd owned the car for 4 years. Nobody had told him. Go to nhtsa.gov, enter your VIN, and read every line. Then call a Hyundai dealer and ask specifically about open service campaigns, not just recalls, because campaigns and technical service bulletins cover different repairs and are listed separately. The Theta 2 campaign alone has saved owners over $4,000 each on engine replacements. The coverage exists whether you know about it or not. Knowing about it is the difference between free and $4,000. Hyundai calls the fluid in the 6-speed automatic a lifetime fill. I want you to understand what that actually means when I drain it in my workshop. I have a 2016 Tucson in my service records that came to me at 98,000 miles with a shutter under light throttle between 25 and 35 miles per hour. The owner had followed Hyundai's guidance and never changed the transmission fluid. When I drained it, what came out was dark brown, smelled of burnt clutch material, and had a metallic shimmer that told me the friction modifier in that fluid had been gone for at least 40,000 miles. New fluid and a filter went in. The shutter reduced but didn't disappear because some of that clutch material was already embedded in the solenoid valve screens. A full valve body clean on top of the fluid service brought the total to $480. That's the good outcome. The owner, who ignores the shutter for another 20,000 miles, ends up needing a remanufactured transmission at $3,200 fitted, and the fluid I drain at that point looks and smells like something you'd find at the bottom of a skip. The manufacturer's definition of lifetime is the transmission's lifetime under warranty conditions. Not your lifetime, not the car's lifetime if you're trying to hit 300,000 miles. I change transmission fluid every 60,000 miles on every Hyundai automatic that comes through my workshop. The service takes 45 minutes and costs $150 to $200. I have never replaced a transmission on a car that had followed that schedule, not once in 16 years. Hyundai fits iridium-tipped spark plugs and publishes a 100,000-mile replacement interval. In my workshop, I pull plugs at 60,000 miles, and I can show you exactly why. Cylinder pressure testing on a 2018 Elantra at 63,000 miles showed compression at 168, 171, 165, and 152 pounds per square inch across the 4 cylinders. That 4th cylinder was already 16 pounds per square inch below the others. When I pulled the plug, the electrode gap had opened to 1.4 millimeters against a factory spec of 1.0 millimeters to 1.1 millimeters. The coil was firing harder to bridge that gap. The coil was also 6 months from failing entirely. Here is the chain of damage a worn plug creates. And this is important because most people think a spark plug is just a spark plug. Gap opens. Coil works harder. Coil runs hot. Coil fails. Misfire begins. Engine management pulls fuel to that cylinder. Partially combusted mixture reaches the catalytic converter. Converter runs 200 degrees hotter than normal. After 15,000 miles of that, the catalyst substrate starts breaking down. An OEM catalytic converter for a 2.0-liter Elantra is $680 fitted. 4 iridium spark plugs at 60,000 miles are $80 in parts and 20 minutes of labor. I have never had a customer who changed plugs at 60,000 miles need a catalytic converter on the same car. Draw your own conclusions. Chains are more durable than belts, I'm not arguing that, but they're not maintenance-free. They're maintenance-deferred. And in Hyundai's 2.0 and 2.4-liter Theta 2 engines specifically, I've seen chain stretch that I find hard to explain to customers without sounding alarmist. I had a 2013 Sonata at 127,000 miles last year that came in with a cold start rattle that lasted about 4 seconds on startup and then disappeared. Classic tensioner behavior. When I checked chain slack through the inspection port, I had 18 millimeters of deflection on the intake side. Hyundai's service limit is 10 millimeters. That chain had been stretching for probably 20,000 miles, fed by slightly degraded oil, and an owner who'd followed the 7,500-mile interval, exactly the scenario I described in secret number 10. I replaced the chain, both tensioners, and the guides for $740 in parts and $320 in labor. Total, $1,060. If that chain had jumped a tooth at highway speed and at 18 millimeters of deflection, it was a cold morning away from doing exactly that. We're talking about bent intake valves, scored cylinder walls, and a bill starting at $3,500 going up from there. The inspection at 120,000 miles takes me 25 minutes and costs the owner $65. If the chain is within spec, they drive away with certainty. If it isn't, we fix it before it becomes a catastrophe. That is the most cost-effective 25 minutes in Hyundai ownership. I have a customer, a retired teacher, drives a 2019 Tucson, who bought a Foxwell NT510 scanner 2 years ago after watching one of these videos. She scans her car on the first Sunday of every month and emails me the report. In 24 months, she has caught 3 pending fault codes before they became active warning lights. A P0011 camshaft position, timing code that pointed to an oil control valve beginning to stick, parts and labor, $195. A P0171 lean mixture code that turned out to be a cracked intake duct, $45 part, 15 minutes fitted, and a P0420 catalyst efficiency code in its pending stage Shalom, which let me catch a degrading upstream O2 sensor at $140 before it destroyed the catalyst at $680. Total spent on those 3 repairs, $380. Total she would have spent had she waited for the warning light each time and the downstream damage accumulated, conservatively $1,400 to $1,600. The scanner cost her $139. It has saved her over 1,000 pounds in the first 2 years alone. The owners who come into my workshop with their own scan data catch problems the service department would have missed until the customer came in complaining. They arrive with a code number and a symptom instead of a vague feeling something is off. That precision cuts diagnosis time in half, and that time difference is on your bill. Buy the scanner. If what I'm telling you is saving you money, do me a favor and hit the like button. It helps this channel reach more Hyundai owners before the expensive mistakes happen, not after. Subscribe if you want the full series. Right, on to number 1. This one is different from everything else on this list because it's not about a part or a fluid. It's about a decision. I want to tell you about a 2015 Hyundai Sonata that came to my workshop 8 months ago. The owner, a delivery driver, putting about 25,000 miles a year on it, had a check engine light that came on at 143,000 miles. The car drove fine. He had a living to make. He left it. The light was still on at 159,000 miles when he finally came to see me, 16,000 miles later. The original code was a P0136. Downstream oxygen sensor, bank 1. A Hyundai OEM sensor is $95. Fitting it is 45 minutes of labor in my workshop. Total repair at 143,000 miles, $185. Because that sensor wasn't replaced, the engine ran slightly rich for 16,000 miles. Slightly rich means excess fuel reaching the catalytic converter. At 159,000 miles, I pulled active codes P0136, P0420 and P0300 BDAP, catalyst efficiency failure, and a random misfire caused by catalyst debris partially blocking cylinder 4's exhaust path. The repair bill at that point was $185 for the original sensor, $680 for a replacement catalytic converter, $220 for an injector service on cylinder 4, and $95 for a fresh set of plugs since we were in there anyway. Total, $1,180. That's the cascade. One ignored sensor becomes 3 connected failures because in a modern engine, everything is downstream of everything else. By the time the owner noticed something was wrong, the original $185 problem had 16,000 miles to compound into a $1,180 repair sheet. I see this every week. The light is not the problem. It's the car telling you where the problem is while it's still cheap to fix. The owners who make 300,000 miles treat every warning light as a question that needs an answer this week, not next month. And that connects every secret on this list back to the same place. A Hyundai is not a car that punishes you for driving it. It punishes you for ignoring it. Treat every service interval as a deadline and every warning light as a question that deserves an answer this week, and I have genuinely not seen a Hyundai maintained that way fail before 250,000 miles. Not in 16 years. The numbers are simple. Following this list costs $800 to $1,200 a year. Reacting to failures costs the average owner I see in my workshop $2,500 to $4,000, plus the recovery calls and the missed mornings. The Hyundais at 300,000 miles aren't special. They're just the ones that had owners who paid attention. There's no reason yours can't be one of them. So if this helped, subscribe. I'm covering every major Hyundai model, the years to buy, the years to avoid, and exactly how to keep them running long past the point where everyone else has given up. Drop your mileage in the comments. I want to know how far yours has gone.